Forgive me if you've already heard this story 10 times, but I want to share it in the moment. About 30 years ago, uh, um, 32 years ago, I made a film, my first directorial film called My Life. And it starred Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman. And I had a lot to learn on that film, a lot. I never directed a major film. And the film got made. Uh, it was released the same weekend as Mrs. Doubtfire. You can imagine which film got the bigger audience. Nobody went to see my film, and the critics hated it. And I was devastated. Reality shattered for me. My hope of becoming a director, of moving into the higher realms of the movie business was gone. And I had no idea how to how to proceed. Life as I knew it was not moving forward, or certainly not moving in a direction that I was interested in. The studio gave me a packet of reviews about this big, and every one of them was worse than the one before. So I stopped reading it, and I just accepted the fact that life had changed irrevocably. Um, and about 2 months later, I'm at a party, don't know why, and this woman comes up to me and she says, I understand you made that movie in my life. And I said, yes. She said, I have to tell you a story. And she said, my husband died 3 years ago, and my son was 10 years old. And he never wanted to talk to me about his father's passing. She said, I discovered 4 months ago that I have terminal cancer. And I did not know how to share this with my son. We went to the movies and we saw this film, My Life, and my son started sobbing. And I went, hmm. She said, we went home. He sat on my lap and we had the conversation that I needed to have to leave this world. So thank you. And it was a moment of extraordinary enlightenment for me because I realized with unbelievable satisfaction that I had made that movie for her and her son, period. And more remarkably than that, it was enough. It's really important to understand that we do not always know how we impact the world, how we affect people around us. We don't always have people come up to us and say, I need to tell you a story. So that's a rarity. But we do impact the world. We do leave a legacy of moments in our lives that may or may not come back to applaud us or haunt us or guide us or traumatize us, whatever it may be. But who we are in the world is meaningful, and we change lives every day, every minute. You may not get the best reviews. You may not review yourself very well. You may think you're a failure on some level. And you may not know during your lifetime that somebody's life was made better because you were in it. But when I set out to make my life, which is a story of a man who discovers he's going to have a child and will not live long enough to see it, and that he wants to make a video about his life to leave for his son so his son knows something about him. And then he starts to make this video and realizes he doesn't know who he is. He knows nothing about himself, doesn't know what to tell his son. So he starts to go back into his life, into his family. He goes to a wedding with all the relatives, and he's starting to make recordings, trying to figure out, who am I? who was I? And he struggles. He just struggles because his mind can't put it all together. But he ends up hearing about a healer, and he goes to this Cambodian healer who says, "This is where you have to go." And he points to his heart, said, "This is where you have to go. But the other parts of life will not help you. This will help you." And he has a hard time buying that. But it was an opportunity for me to share that message because it's so much the core of Rudy's teaching. This is where you need to go in order to find peace and healing. And most of us are not given that. We're told, go to college, read this book, um, get married, have children. All these different things will take care of your life. But in fact, that's all the outer world. There is a complete inner world that is missing from much of our Western technology and Western culture. It goes inward and is vast even beyond our material existence. I talk about it every week. But finding your way into that space is really hard. There are not a lot of people pointing in that direction, or if they are, they say, give me $125 a session and I'll help you get there. You know, it's a transaction. The thing I loved about Rudy right here, when I met him, I walked into his store. You're going to hear all these stories. You've heard them a million times. The first time I went in, I wanted to buy a Buddha. I had very little money, about $3. And I go into his store and I go, did I want to buy a Buddha? He said, yes. How much do you want to spend? And I had looked around in these cases and I saw one I liked, but it was broken a little bit. I said, well, $3. And he just didn't say much. And he walked over to the case and took out the broken Buddha. And I went, I like that one. I did like it a lot. It's broken. And he said to me, seek perfection in yourself, not in external objects. I said, that is a great sales pitch. I handed him $3 and I went home with my little Buddha, which then traveled with me literally around the world looking for a teacher and not finding one. Lots of stories, as you all, some of you anyway, know about. When I got back, I'm carrying all these Tibetan carpets from monks I lived with in Kathmandu, trying to sell them so they had money to live on. And I went back to the store that Rudy ran, and I wanted to see if he would buy these Tibetan carpets. And he said, no, I'm not interested in Tibetan carpets. But he told me where to go. And in fact, I went there and sold them. But he said, what were you doing there in India? And I said, I gone to find a teacher. He said, oh, did you find one? I said, no. He said, well, I can teach you everything you want to know. And it was not said with pride. It was not said with some kind of pomposity. It was just straightforward. And I listened to him say that, and I knew it was true. I knew it was true. It was a magical day as far as I recall. Forgive me because I don't know the absolute truth of this, but I think I met my wife that evening through George and Cheryl, who are sitting in front of me right now, and my wife, who's sitting in front of me. So it was a magical day. And then I went to sit with Rudy in one of his classes because I had never been to a class. And I didn't know what a class was. And I sat down and he had given me this exercise, which all of you have now had. And I did it. And he looked at my eyes and I fell on the floor like that. I had never had that experience before. And then it kept happening over and over. So I decided not to sit on the floor, on the chair. I'd sit on the floor. So every time I fell over, it was a smaller fall. But he had enormous power and grace and a gift of caring, unlike anyone I have ever known. Blanche and I were going on something the equivalent of our honeymoon. And 2 or 3 days before we left, we said, we got a notice from the people in the building we were living in that they were selling our apartment. And I said to Rudy, I said, oh my God, we can't go on our honeymoon. We're not going to come back with an apartment. It's going to be gone days later. He said, go on your trip, come back, and I will have an apartment waiting for you. I said to Blanche, Rudy said, go. And I said, well, we're going to go. And we did, and had an amazing honeymoon, amazing. We came back. The apartment that we had been in we had 2 weeks before we had to get out. I went to Rudy. He said, got you a wonderful apartment. And it was the most beautiful, unbelievable apartment in Greenwich Street in New York. We had our first child there, Joshua. And it was all because Rudy just did that. But that's one thing that he did. I mean, it goes on and on. And then he also did things like that for everybody. So the more people I talked to, the more I realized, oh my God, this guy who charged nothing for his practice, nothing, was giving and giving and giving. And if there was a description of what it means to be a human being in this world with a connection to, if you will, the deeper parts of being a human being, which is the deeper spiritual truth of your life, he was a manifestation of that. And he was, in my mind, going to be there forever because of who he was. Of course, he'll be my guide and my spiritual contact for the rest of my life, and I will evolve into enlightenment and awakening and joy and beauty and all of that stuff through the amazing power and kindness that he not only demonstrated in the way he lived, but he gave it to you through his eyes, through his hands. He sent this amazing energy. I had never met anybody who did that. Still haven't. Very few people have that particular skill set. And he just opened me up to the flood of possibilities that existed as an inner being, not just an outer being. He pursued me like mad to develop an outer life. He's the one who pushed me to go into the movie business, to write scripts. He actually had me write a script for him just to prove that I could actually write a script for something that never got made and probably never would have gotten made, but he got me to write it, a musical called Big Black Rainbow. It was a strange musical. But we had lyrics. He wrote the lyrics, and I wrote the book. And it was, in the end, it was for me because I had a whole career that came out of that kindness, and Rudy did not. He never that musical never got made. But like 7 years into my studying with him and marrying Blanche and being in the ashram with all these wonderful people, many of whom are sitting in front of me, um, Rudy was going upstate New York to give a talk. He was in an airplane. The pilot of the plane, who's a dear friend, got lost. The clouds came in more than they should have, and whatever was going on, he tried to get lower down to find out where he was. And there in front of him was a mountain, and he crashed the plane. And Rudy died like that. And that was impossible. It was absolutely impossible. Life doesn't do that. Life goes on smoothly and as you expect it, with predictability and with ease and with joy. And it doesn't upend itself like that. But it did. It absolutely did. Everything I knew up to that moment got shattered. Now what? Now what? It was a really scary moment for all of us in the group, all of us, and we're all trying to articulate what can we do? How can we fix it? We came up with hundreds of ideas. Some were smart, some were not so smart, but we really worked at it. The only thing that I can tell you at one moment, everybody had, the day we learned he had died, everybody went upstairs into the Rudy's living room area, which is quite spectacular. And I was in the classroom downstairs, bowing down, praying for help. And the next thing I knew, I got goosed in my butt. I've never been goosed in my butt. And I never, and I went that, and it was like the weirdest experience ever. And I knew it was Rudy. And I knew it was Rudy kind of laughing at me and saying, go forward, go on, you can do this. And from that moment on, I never felt that I had lost Rudy. I never felt his absence. I never grieved. I just felt this hand holding presence, laughing at me, holding my hand to this moment. And what Rudy has me do in these moments is to bring this energy that he has taught me to open to other people. Will I get good reviews? Will anybody go see it? Is Mrs. Doubtfire more interesting than this class? Maybe. Will anybody come back and say, boy, oh boy, this has been great? I mean, some people have, but this is my life, the movie, and my life, the teaching. And what this is about is sharing an entry point into the infinite that most of your day-to-day life, your schooling, your friends, your parents, nobody will tell you about Why? Because they don't know. They don't know. You have to have an initiation into that. And I've talked about this so much, but that initiation can be suffering and drama and difficulty and asking for help because you don't know where to go. And then suddenly this channel opens up inside you, and there you are. You're taken on a journey inward. You all, those of you who know my story, know that it was an LSD trip, a big overdose that suddenly shattered my life, and and I had nothing to prepare me for that. Long story, too long a story to go into here, but I came out of that as a changed human being in a period of what may have been one night and may have been 3 million years. I don't really know. It was vast, but I came out of it, and I didn't know why I came out of it because I thought I had been dead. And what happened was that I said to myself as my elbow reappeared and a finger and the wall and the bed and the ceiling and all these things recreated themselves out of a vast infinite nothingness that was profound. And I said, why am I back? And this voice came to me so clearly, like nothing I'd ever heard before. And it said, to tell people what you saw, period. And so here we are. I'm 82 almost years old, and I'm trying to tell you what I saw and trying to express it. But I would never have found a mechanism for it or a channel for it if I hadn't met Rudy. So I tell you all this in a time of incredible change and transformation for all of us. If there was ever a moment in our collective history that many of us are feeling lost, confused, everything is upending itself, this is probably the worst moment in our lives on some level. Maybe some have had worse personal moments, but collectively, as a society, everything is upended. Truth is lies, lies are truth. The things we thought were true and telling us where we were going in life are not where they're going. Things are upending on every possible level. It's a really chaotic moment. You know, there's the political realm. My elevator, we finally got the elevator in the house. The elevator is operating. I needed some Epsom salts upstairs, and I was in the basement for my feet because they were hurting. So I took the elevator up to get the Epsom salts. I thought, oh, this is amazing. This is so great. And then I'm coming down, and the elevator gets stuck. And I'm stuck on my own elevator, day two, and I had no idea what to do. And if there's anybody who's claustrophobic in the world, you're looking at him. And I figured it out. I got the door to open. I was in a place where I could actually get out of the elevator and did. Called, and it was supposedly now repaired and everything is fine. But it was like, welcome to paradise, welcome to hell, all simultaneous. The worst and the best all taking place at the exact same time. An amazing lesson for me. My son just came back from Paris, taking his wife there for Valentine's Day, which I thought was the most wonderful romantic thing ever. Of course, I've told you this, he works in the Justice Department. So he's come back to, as whatever those of you who are watching the news, the most upheaval you can imagine. And he's in his house, and all the heat system goes down. So they're in the house with no heat at all, after having a moment of pure, I'll call it romantic bliss in Paris, which for Valentine's Day, which I think is, the world shows you promise and beauty and all of these things, and then poof, poof, there you are, trapped in an elevator or in a house with no heat. This is human life. The fact that we've lived most of our lives without all of that impacting us on a day-to-day basis is a gift. It's a gift. Have you ever recognized it as a gift? If you're lucky, yes. If not, this is like, oh yeah, well, I got to do this, and life goes on, and you have this kind of experience of expecting this beauty and joy or simplicity and comfort to continue all the time. Welcome to reality. It doesn't do that. If you turned on your TV 6 months ago or a year ago, you could look at things happening in Gaza, in the Ukraine, in Haiti, on and on. There is profound misery and suffering and struggle all over the world. If you look at a lot of the people in our country, in the classes that are not served well by our society, there is suffering and pain and difficulty. Suddenly, I'll use the word we, and maybe that's not fair, and maybe it's not a true collective, but maybe you need to know that at this moment in time, we are facing a uncertainty, an uncertain reality, a level of discomfort and pain and not knowing what to do. Life is now suffering more than anything else. And you can dramatize it, you can get into it, you can suffer all you want, but welcome to two things. One is reality, and two, maybe a recognition of what an extraordinary life you already have had. When you start to lose what is joy and comfort and all of that, it may be the first moment where you recognize what it is that it was. And not only really what it was, but what it is right now. Yes, if you turn on the news, yes, if you open the newspaper, there's unbelievable transformational stuff that may end up at your doorstep, just like fires in California ended up at people's houses and knocked them out of their comfort zone beyond belief, changed everything. Can that happen? Can. Will it happen? I have no idea. What can you do? That's, I guess, I don't know, read the newspaper, see what people tell you to do. I can only suggest that one, take a breath, go into your heart, ask for help to surrender, and then open up to the morning, the daily beauty of life, the extraordinary nature of whatever it is you have for breakfast that is available and in your refrigerator, that you don't have to go out trying to kill an animal to get some food, that you don't have to go in the garden and dig up food. If you have a garden, you don't have to, you can still go to the market. There's these amazing things in our current life that you have to look at as something that only most people see when it's gone. Stop that. Look at it now. This is amazing. What we have is amazing. I know there are many of us who are suffering all sorts of things. We're getting old. The body's not working properly. The elevator's not working. The heat's not working. Whatever it is, yes, welcome to real life. But what is working is the sun's coming up and the sun's going down. It's really unbelievably beautiful, really beautiful. And I am really wanting to tell you that if you can stop for a moment and recognize who you are, where you are, the truth of your own being, you will find a way to navigate through that very simple corridor of joy the rest of the life that you have to live. And if it gets really dark and difficult, and if that we're sharing that kind of situation, I mean, darker than what it appears to be now, then we'll still get together like this. We'll still share. We'll still be a community. I know it's a Zoom community, and I know in some ways it's a physical community, but if you are suffering, reach out. This is a version of what's happening in 21st century America. It kind of works. Is it the best? No. But is it amazing? Yes. That we have mechanisms that allow us to see people 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 12,000 miles away, right here, now. That's amazing. We are here together as a community. We're here because this guy, Rudy, said that there's something transcendent in the experience of being human that can be shared and that we can all come together and experience this unbelievable oneness, if you will. And I will tell you, I don't make this as a promise, but I suspect it's true. When you leave this world, the suffering of your life takes a context that's beyond understanding, and you see it as a whole, as opposed to just the little difficult parts of it. And you see the beauty of what your life was rather than just the traumas of not having heat in an elevator getting stuck. It's a different world. We are entering something right now. I could talk about it for hours, and I think there are people who would like that and people who do not want that. I'm not going to do it. But I will tell you, we're together in this, whatever this ride is. If you want the help that really is available to you, it's going to come from inside you, not from outside. It's really there. It's really embracing. It really cares about you. The voice that's speaking to you now, which sounds a little bit like Bruce, is really more like Rudy, and it really is from wherever Rudy came from. I don't know what that is, but it loves you and it cares about you and it wants you to be well. And it could get very disruptive, and it has done that for people over the course of history. And it's been doing it in many, many ways worse than anything we've ever known. If it gets like that, then we still have guidance of even this, even this, we can transcend, we can accept, we can open to, and learn from. And in the worst of the worst, you can find hand holding, kindness, love, and goodness as the guide through whatever occurs. So don't despair. Don't get into craziness right now. Don't get into your mindsets of, oh my God, this is so terrible or so difficult. Maybe, but that won't help. And what will help is take a breath, ask for help. Thank Rudy for putting this out there in some way. I try to do that every day, thanks to where it came from, because Rudy was not the source. He was just a transmitter, and we're all transmitters. And every one of you can, at some point, change other people's lives in ways you don't even understand just by putting you out there. And they may come back one day and say, thank you. You have no idea how much you helped me. If they don't say it, trust me, I would guess every single one of you sitting here right now has someone in life who would like to tell you that. If they don't say it, let me say it. I love you guys. You have all been so unbelievably helpful to me in this lifetime, and I thank you for showing up and being present in my life. You have done great joy, sent great joy to me, and I am very grateful. The end. Okay, George.
I just want to say Rudy in his own way was a bodhisattva. He really helped people, and he helped people to realize themselves. Rudy was, and everything is impermanent. But what was permanent about Rudy was his teaching.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys can hear George. He's talking about Rudy was a bodhisattva, and so he's putting it in the context let's say, of the Buddhist world, which is true. And he was, he's Rudy taught impermanence. He definitely was a demonstration of impermanence. It's what we all need to know. Buddha taught it, and that's the world we live in. We're not separate from that. We are all, every one of us, impermanent, and you better know that now, because you're going to watch that occur. And for me, it's amazing getting old. Impermanence is not a future event. It's unfolding. What?
But his teachings go on.
Yeah, the teachings go on, George is saying, and it's absolutely true. The teachings do go on. Any other questions? I have more screens and more people today than I've ever had, actually. So I don't know how we're going to handle that. I didn't know you could get more than two screens. So I can't see you all, but if one of you wants to say something, do. And if not,
Bruce, I have a question.
okay.
This is Christine. I just wondered where I can watch my life.
I guess you get it online somewhere.
Okay, but you don't know what platform.
I'm not exactly sure how you get it. It's around.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good, better movie than you think. Even Michael Keaton in the New York Times recently said more people ask him about my life than Batman.
Well, fantastic. Thank you.
Unexpected. Yeah, so it's had its place.
It's a good movie.
Do you still have the script of Big Black Rainbow?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't share it, but I do, and it was great to work on. That's all I can tell you. Just a wonderful way to be with Rudy.
Bruce, I have a question.
Yes.
I've recently dedicated again to daily sitting, and shortly afterwards, I came across a person that was at some of my first sittings, and she's a student of another, of Stewart. And we've been sitting together sometimes over the internet because I was not feeling well. But the thing I want to ask you, we did a trip together, and she, I guess, is like a teacher, or we help each other. And she called it as, kind of a lifeline. but her personality can be weird, and her teacher even expressed that. And I know the answer. I just kind of checked in, but I want to check in again. Should I sit with somebody that I'm afraid that weird energy might come across, or if she's here, I should just do
I don't have an answer.
it?
I think you're going to have to feel that moment to moment. Um, the teachers I've had have not been weird. I mean, well, let me put it this way. Some got weird, I left. You know, some got weird. I mean, there are people who use it as a reaffirmation of who they are as in their power base, in their control, in their heightened reality. And I find that for me, the great teachers are very humble, truly humble, and simple. That's me. I'm not looking for a teacher, but the people I've seen who teach who've come from that space are quite remarkable. And if there's anything else, if there's ownership or total focus on I'm the teacher, I get hesitant about that.
Oh, there's none of that. Actually, when we're
So
sitting,
then follow your gut. You're good at that.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. Anybody else?
Hi, it's Julia.
Hi, Julia.
Hi. I just want to share that a couple of years after I met you, I watched My Life, probably like 2010 or something. And it was really one of the most powerful spiritual experiences I've had. I just felt it shoot through my soul and break open things. And so it really touched me. I still remember that powerful experience. And yeah, I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but I want to share
Oh,
that with you.
thank you. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
And
worth making.
it really was. It really broke through something so dense in me, and it was very powerful. And I also want to share that just in the last like 2 weeks in contemporary forums, I've heard or seen ghost referenced. Like a podcast with two drag queens. They referenced Ghost. And then a coming of age teenage story movie that I watched last night. They referenced Ghost and then something else. I mean, it's really remarkable. I see it all the time.
You never know what you put in the world, what it's going to do, but you're more likely to have things referenced if hundreds of millions of people saw it than two or four or whatever. But thank
Yeah.
you. No, I see it referenced as well. And
Yeah.
I am so far away from my career as a defining part of me at this point.
Yeah.
I'm glad I had it. It was an extraordinary ride just for the joy of it. But truly, in the end, I am not what I was. I something much simpler.
Yeah. But there have been so many powerful movies put out in the world, and Ghost keeps giving. I mean, it's the energy
Well,
that came through you. And what was the last line? The drag queens referenced it. The love.
love inside, you take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. They said that. They shared it with their audience.
I think the Beatles even said it better. The love you make is equal to the love you take. But it's
Yeah,
the same idea. And it didn't come from there. It came from a very separate reference. But it's what the movie is about. The love inside, you take it with you. And believe me, if I have a message left to leave, that would be it.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Next week we'll see where the world is and where we are and what's going on. I love you all and truly, truly am grateful for